Welcome back. So, if you're Capcom, you're probably not happy with how things have went down. Basically, Capcom has managed to anger their most dedicated fans, always the best people to anger, by updating and therefore breaking a decade-old game and its mods, and therefore causing an explosion of news and videos across the internet. What's happened is they've implemented a new form of copy protection, and they've done it to Resident Evil Revelations. And following that change getting a hell of a lot of publicity, audiences discovered that it wasn't the only game that they had done this to. And due to the fact that this update has seemingly interfered with the way that mods worked, well, critics are very quick to connect this with a viral video from the publisher, one that was decried by many because it described mods as, quote, a problem, or another quote, malicious. Oh boy, it's a lot. They must be raging over there, and today I'm going to take you through all you need to know, the context here, the presentation where those crazy quotes came from, the allegedly anti-mod software, the hilarious response from the people who made the software, and just what the hell else Capcom is up to and why their interests may not necessarily align with yours. Our interests, of course, are to bring you the best news coverage out there, to do it every day. We do that thanks to today's sponsor. Us, or to be more accurate, your fellow viewers. So here's the TLDR. I want to work together with you, and in return, you will get early content, exclusive content, amongst other things. The problem is that YouTube ad revenue is falling to pieces, and relying solely on sponsors to literally pay wages for research, that is a dicey game. Also, the big algorithms suck, and we all know why. So, we made Bellular.ghost.io, our own platform built on open source tools. And over there, you will get Loading Screen, our daily newsletter that will soon be building into a podcast, as well as early access to content and access to all of our research documents and reports on the stories. So you'll actually see our research reports before I do when I'm recording them. And of course, you can hang out with me and the team over on the Members Lounge Discord server. It is the best way to support us so that we can together have a sustainable, independent future and make content of ever-increasing quality for years to come. You can check the link out down below. And with that, let's get into the stories. I've got to start off with a quote that really does look amazing for us who love PC. It's from Haruhiro Sugimoto, who told Bloomberg that for many years, PC has been our main platform. We are currently selling 230 countries and regions through this PC platform, and they hope that this will continue for a long time on this platform. TLDR, a big, we love PC, it's our biggest platform, which is pretty incredible when you think about the state of some Capcom games on PC maybe 10, 15 years ago. And this is amazing. As PC gamers, we're all very happy, and we have a hunger for these games that Capcom are releasing. This is when we get to the first part of today's drama. We covered this a while back on Loading Screen, which you can check out down below. It's our daily publication and newsletter, and yeah, you can get it down below on our own platform. The links are there. Now, we covered on that an R&D presentation. This was made for Capcom staff, by Capcom staff, but was published on YouTube. That, of course, meant that everybody got it. Now, most of what this presentation is talking about is anti-cheat and anti-piracy measures in PC games, and the TLDR basically is that they haven't really had an amazing company-wide strategy for dealing with this kind of thing. It seems it was just done on an ad hoc basis, and what they're trying to do here is have a coordinated company strategy for anti-cheat and anti-piracy, eventually with the aim of developing their own anti-cheat engine tools for RE Engine, which of course is the engine that is driving the likes of the new Resident Evil games, and my god, does that engine look very nice indeed. Now, at its core then, this is Capcom's R&D team saying that, look, without copy protection, we will see pirated copies appear in less than a day, paid content like DLC will be made free, and of course, if this is happening on day one, you lose a lot of profit, they would think. They do later on go to admit, quote, the actual amount of damages is unobservable, and that's because you can't measure it. Is one piracy worth one lost sale? I think we all know the answer is no, but if you were to be charitable to them on the flip side, and especially since we have very good internet now. I mean, at my home, I think I have 500 down. At the office, we have gigabit. For so many people, like, they actually have more than that. And that does mean that, let's just say a game comes out in Steam, and you can buy it in Steam. Or you basically see that effectively, oh, look, on insert website name here, I could download that. And of course, because it's the modern day, unlike back when, you know, people were doing game piracy when I was younger, when you may have to, you know, leave your computer on for 3 or 4 days, it could be 15 minutes, and you'll have a big AAA game ready to play. That is what they don't want to have happen. And when we see the likes of Denuvo be implemented in games, usually that is to slow down the time to crack enough that your big day one sales don't get impacted. Now, look, day one sales are one of the most important things. They truly are kind of mammothly important. As an example, whenever we heard about Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 2 has to sell 7 million copies, but the asterisk there is 7 million copies at RRP of £70, which of course is going to be day one. So if those highly valuable day one sales are siphoned away onto, some torrent tracker, then the company's going to be sad. And that basically is why, they're willing to piss us off with Denuvo. And it's one of those things, I think you can see why they would want to do it if maybe you're in their position, but then you can also see why, to the majority of your paying customers who don't want to pirate because they actually want a fair exchange of value because they believe in that sort of thing, well, they end up getting a not great situation, especially if that cracked version runs better than the version with Denuvo. Looking at you, Devil May Cry. But anyway, I digress. As a part of this whole big conversation in this presentation, they talked about mods. And they basically said, right, that mods, in terms of purely just game interactions, are no different than cheats. Now, is that them saying the mods are bad? No, it is just saying on a technological level, what is a mod doing? It is tinkering around with game files. What is what's a cheat doing? Arguably the same thing. That's kind of what they said in this presentation. Now, they go on to then, frame some issues that could be caused. Basically, reputational damage from malicious mods. Now, how do we really use the term malicious there? Certainly the people who made the nude Chun-Li mod that appeared during an FGC broadcast for Street Fighter 6, which was hilarious. They probably didn't put that out with malicious intent. It was probably another intent. Anyway, reputational damage is one thing that they don't want. Another thing is increased customer support time. But what is really important and what was quite lost in the sort of minor drama that happened here is they did say, they started their framing by saying mods are an inseparable part of PC gaming. And the rest of this is just in consideration of, the kind of wider thing that they were talking about in this presentation, which is anti-cheat and anti-piracy. That is where, to start us off, that story came from. This wasn't always shared perfectly accurately, and from that, people then took the view that they hate mods. Even though they did say, as a quote, mods are an inseparable part of PC gaming. But then the problem is, if you were already suspicious about this, Capcom sure did give you all of the confirmation that you could have been looking for because of Resident Evil Revelations, a Nintendo 3DS title that was put onto PC in 2013. And as of 2024, given the news that spread around, and given what's literally happened, a lot of people are thinking now that they added DRM to this game, and they basically made it be kind of busted. And that is why, when we take a look here, what do we see? Overwhelmingly negative recent reviews. And 556, that's quite a lot of reviews. To take a look at this one, add a DRM to an 11-year-old game. F you, Capcom. This is the second downgrade in recent years, and they're calling the copy protection itself malware, and it's called Enigma, and soon we'll get onto the hilarious response from Enigma. For another one, adding retroactive DRM, which both hurts the performance and blocks modifications on on an old single-player offline game is absolutely insane. And that does seem completely insane. Overall, what users are reporting is, as an example, problems with Steam Deck, also frame rate dips, and then, of course, mods having problems. And of course, you're dealing with people who are playing a 11-year-old PC port of a Nintendo 3DS title to the point where they're modding it and they're actually paying attention to updates. So this is definitely targeting a fairly involved, more niche community. I do not say that's a bad thing, by the way. I think niche communities are absolutely awesome, and that's where truly a lot of the magic does happen. Now, what was quickly identified here is this update contained a new file executable protector. This is one that was designed to make it harder to modify the game in any way. Let's think about our presentation earlier about how mods, cheats, potentially those will be caught in the same sort of crossfire from anti-piracy and anti-copy software. Now, they pulled the update, they said that they're going to fix the issues, and when the issues are fixed, the update will go back on. And I think from that, we can basically read that when this update comes back, ideally, you'll still have the copy protection stuff, but also you won't have the bugs. And the reason why I say that is when we look at other titles in the Capcom catalog. So, DSO Gaming reported in 2023 that Capcom have removed Denuvo from Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. Eurogamer then reported something similar with Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection, which, by the way, a game of my childhood. Very awesome. Love Battle Network. Anyway, in both of these cases, what happened is Capcom seemingly replaced Denuvo with something new, and that new thing was called Enigma Protector DRM. That's quite interesting, and per folk in the modding community for Capcom games like Fluffy Quack, he actually said that basically it's not really seen as a factor in the bad performance of this game. So essentially, Enigma has been put on this Resi title, and there have been issues, but it's been put in other titles, and it doesn't seem that there have been issues, which could then make you think that the update is the thing that caused issues, not the copy protection. But you still look at all of these games and think, they're so bloody old, you're going to be making no money from them. Why even invite any of this upon yourself anyway? From what we can tell, what's happening here is Capcom are updating their games. And they're updating to basically include their new standardized solution. So games that are newer have either got Denuvo or Enigma, but then older games, they are only seeing changes when an update is being applied. So it seems that when they are doing an update for a game, they will bundle in their new policy for how they're dealing with anti-piracy. Now, this doesn't seem to be impacting performance to the same degree elsewhere. Maybe that implies that the Resident Evil Revelations patch itself was the problem. The big problem is this broke mods. Now, with Ghost Trick or Mega Man, those are comparatively more recent releases. Perhaps the modders for those games are going to be a bit more active, more able to, actually issue updates to get around these, which it does seem has been possible, but for Resident Evil Revelations, it seems that is less the case. So overall, much like with the presentation that kicked off this drama, or at least sowed a seed that would later explode with Resident Evil, it just seems that mods are being treated as an afterthought. What is, of course, not an afterthought is this new software. Now, Denuvo sleuthing, it's a thing that happens. Denuvo always say, our stuff, it does not impact the performance. You're all absolutely on the crack pipe. But then people say, well, how is it that the cracked version of Devil May Cry 5 was running better than the version with Denuvo? Please answer, Denuvo. And that's, of course, happened again with Enigma. And with all this going on, somebody went to Enigma's forum and basically warned them that they've angered loads and loads of people. And in response, Enigma basically said it's Capcom's problem. And, the response is admittedly hilarious just because I think it's, language barrier is not a perfect translation. But they basically said, curious, what action do you need from us? And why do you blame us that someone else use our software? Someone use, we do not push to use. What is our guilt, you think? And why are you so sure all you reported belongs to our software? Maybe you are so angered because you can't use cheats anymore. Gotta say, and it's nobody's fault, but come on, sometimes whenever, you're dealing with translations or stuff, and look, hey, credit to them. I only speak one language, so I am absolutely not able to criticize other people's language skills. If you're getting more than one, goddamn, thumbs up to you. But yeah, I just thought that response was absolutely hilarious, and because it was hilarious, it obviously spread all over the internet. I just love the ending. The full, you can't use cheats anymore. Maybe that's why you're so angered. Great. Now, of course, from their perspective, they probably just heard about this. They're thinking, we're an anti-cheat software. That must be why they're angry. So it doesn't really matter. But TLDR, blame Capcom. So it's fundamentally the same thing as with Denuvo every single time. Denuvo are not popular with the gamers at all. But ultimately, nobody's forcing Denuvo to be used. Denuvo want people to buy and use their software, but it's not like they're forcing people. Fundamentally, though, it's just that tension between the audience and the developer and the publisher, where each has got different incentives. It's in a way not necessarily Denuvo's fault, but if you're in this industry, you really do have to acknowledge that in many ways, the thing that you're doing is for the benefit of the publisher, not necessarily the benefit of the actual customer. As for Capcom themselves, they're doing great in so many regions. And of course, they still want more money. If line go up, why not upper? Absolutely. So, what's that meant? Well, there's been a shift to live service with Street Fighter 6. We've had some drama, I believe, around the pricing of their DLC. There's paid DLC upgrades for the likes of the Resident Evil 4 remake. I mean, was that not the most, pointless set of after-the-fact DLC for that game? Just, random boosts and shit. I was like, this is Resi 4. What are you doing? Desperate. Maybe because it's just some top-down company policy that just kind of gets implemented no matter how much it does or does not make sense. To, of course, some of their games' longer content tails like Monster Hunter. Overall, they want audiences to keep increasing those sales because, my god, sales is what Capcom have been amazing at getting recently. And over on PC, a lot of this can be interrupted by cheats and hacks, right? Cheats and hacks can mess up games. That will interrupt your initial sales and your long tail. That is why the likes of Denuvo gets put on. As with Enigma, it does appear to be more of a long-term solution that seemingly is being standardized across all of their releases. Now, this problem of anti-cheat actually being an issue and intrusive ways around that is a real problem. I mean, just before I actually sat down to record today's video, I refreshed my YouTube, and because I have enjoyed many FPSs in the past, a Jack Frags video appeared. And in that video, he is talking about cheats ruining games. I know for a long time Warzone was basically being ruined by cheats back when I was really enjoying PUBG. I remember that being ruined by cheats. It genuinely ruins a gameplay experience, therefore it breaks a pattern, it breaks a habit. That habit is where money comes from because we're talking about live services. So anti-cheat is vital to companies, and as much as there was tremendous consternation to the kernel level anti-cheat that was being used by Riot for Valorant, you can kind of see why they felt they needed to go that far, because if people can't reliably practice or train in Valorant, because people do play Valorant like one would play a sport, if they can't do that reliably, people won't play the bloody game, and cheating can be that bad. I think especially too in the modern era where there's not a server admin, because look, back when I was playing COD 2, on a dedicated server, if somebody came in clearly using a wall hack, the admin would just kick them and ban them. And yes, it would be an annoying whack-a-mole that the server admins would have to do, but the integrity of those games was actually preserved because the players had the power to self-police, which is not really something that's going on as much now. So, trying to clamp down on cheats, I do understand. Trying to do those anti-piracy solutions, I mean, I understand why they do it, but it is the fact that it very often damages paying customers' experience. You always got to put the paying customer first. Always. Because that's a paying customer who will continue to support you over time because you've treated them well. So that does annoy me. And as a topic of concern, look, maybe a shift in tone around modding and control over IP, that is something that we should actually be concerned about and absolutely keep an eye on. And it may not just be isolated to games either. As an example, there's reports from the likes of Team Darkside that Capcom are copyright striking videos from them and other speedrunners across the internet which contain modded content. Now that is awful. And it's interesting for Capcom because if you were around in a certain era, you know that Capcom at one point were the worst when it came to PC ports. Absolutely. I mean, the original PC port of Resi 4, Onimusha 3, Devil May Cry 3, these were games that had awful performance, awful, controller options stuff, and essentially to have what you would think is like a paid customer experience, you needed a fan patch. And if you think installing a fan fix for a Bethesda game, if you think that is like a fan patch that fixes a game, you got no idea for the likes of, say, the Resi 4 situation, or, many other Japanese games. The initial Nier Automata port absolutely comes to mind with that one. But it's not like that anymore. Capcom are massive. Their PC ports are broadly really good. They're releasing multiple PC games within a year that look incredible, that perform incredibly. They've clearly invested in industry-leading tech that allows them to just make content, but a lot of their audience came from that bad era because they still loved Capcom games. That means they are used to getting fan patches, they're used to getting mods. So if Capcom, now that it is a lumbering big sales beast, like some massive Lovecraftian Goliath, move its tentacle and accidentally kill all the modders, even if they accidentally do that, the people that supported them, or at least bought their games through thick and thin, they were trained to really value those modders who have just been inconvenienced. And that is basically why, with this Resident Evil Revelations update, it was so prone to exploding in the internet. Because, I mean, I think, did Muda cover that on some Ordinary Gamers? Like, I've seen a lot of coverage from this, far more than you would think from a old port of a 3DS game. So that does show that, like, this is something people are touchy about. There is a worry, that things will not go in the way of modders over time. But ultimately, I think what's really happened here is that their large, corporation-wide attempts to protect their IP and nebulous profits from piracy, maybe, and how they've applied that to 11-year-old games ultimately has gained them absolutely nothing. I do not think that, think about all of the piracy that will be stopped on Resident Evil Revelations, the PC port of a 3DS game. They have gained nothing, and all that they've done is really annoyed some long-term fans. Big companies act like big companies. That's kind of the story today, and of most of the channel. That's it for me today. Of course, check out this video next. We do almost daily videos now, so subscribe for that, and I'll see you over there.